Does this resonate with you? No matter how much you try, it is still super hard to set boundaries with people or to reinforce boundaries that you once set and stand up for yourself. And maybe there is this invisible force that is holding you from speaking your mind when you are being confronted with someone who is doing something that you don't like. If you said yes to it, this entire episode is for you. If you're listening to me for the first time, my name is Gosia and this is Cosmic Tickle. I'm talking all about mind-body connection for highly sensitive, intuitive, creative women, maybe like yourself, but definitely like me. So this entire channel is dedicated to becoming stronger and to stop resigning to the prevalent narrative that we're weak, that we're just different, and that we can just manage being so sensitive or weak or whatever, okay? It's all about how you can actually start living out your potential. So why setting boundaries is so hard? Why does it feel like your throat is getting tightened, like your chest is collapsing, like you're just getting smaller and smaller when you want to set a boundary? And maybe even when you say it with such a weak voice and you don't really put it out there with strength and presence that you could, to have someone respect you. I'm going to start by saying something that I sound weird, but because it's a mind-body channel, I'm not just talking about the head stuff, because you probably consumed a lot of head stuff about how to, set boundaries, and it never worked, right? It didn't work. It didn't make it easier. Maybe you can conceptualize, but it's still not natural for you. So the reason why it's so hard for you specifically as a sensitive person is that your sense of boundary is not well defined. The sense where your body ends, the energetical sense where your body ends, is not defined because of the mind-body disconnection that happens very early on in childhood, when something scares us out from the body, so to speak. It may sound very abstract, I get it, but it happens when we become disconnected early in childhood and we tend to dissociate. We go into our heads, we escape, we go into fantasy, but we don't inhabit our bodies fully. We don't feel set and settled in our bodies. We don't feel like we can take up space or that we can feel comfortable and feel good in our skin. If that still resonates, then we're on the right track, and I will get deeper and deeper into this. And bear with this being a little bit abstract, because by the end of this video it will become more clear what I'm talking about. What do I mean by saying that your body is not well defined, that your body, your physical boundary is not well defined? Well, it happens when you are highly sensitive and very early in childhood you come to this world and you don't feel welcome in this world, and it doesn't feel good. And for a tiny baby it is terrifying, and a tiny baby cannot calm herself down. So what happens? It is overwhelmed. The child is overwhelmed with all the sensations that are coming up from like not being accepted, not being cuddled, not being loved so much as she would like to, not being taken care of, like all the time as she would want to, spend all the time with mommy and daddy and, do all the fun stuff, right? And the child cannot bear it. So what it does, it disconnects from the body. And when it happens, we also disconnect from the feelings. That's why it's also might be overwhelming for you to have feelings or feel any energies of people, right? You might have this undefined body, as in like all the energy is up in your head and your body is almost like kind of see-through, right? Like you're not really touching the ground, like you're absorbing all kinds of energies from other people. Like people are taking up so much space, but you're becoming smaller and smaller to accommodate everything and everyone. And it might be through behaviors, but behaviors just show really our energy, because we communicate with people through energy. And you are probably very intuitive, and maybe you don't understand what is going on, but you can feel it. You can feel that something is off. You meet that person and you know that they're not in their character. They're just out of their character. They're just like not being themselves, and you can sense like what's wrong. Tell me what's up, because you're acting weird, right? And you can sense it immediately. Or you know when someone is in pain and when they're suffering, and you also absorb this. And I talk a lot about this house without the walls in my older episode. Why is it so easy? Why people project and dump their pain on empaths and highly sensitive people? I will post it here as well in the description. But the concept is basically that you are like a house without the walls. And you may think like you are a house, but people don't feel like you have the boundary, and you don't feel like you have the boundary. And it may be very hard for you to decide what is yours and what is others. This also shows up as taking some responsibility from someone that is not yours, like taking responsibility to solve someone's problems, to give advice, to offer a listening ear to every single person that wants it, to give your time, resources, to become loyal to people that are not loyal to you. This sort of one-sided relationships that you give and offer, it means that you're open, that you are like a host, so to speak, and people can come with their stuff and dump anything they want in your space, and they are becoming bigger and bigger, and you are shrinking and shrinking. If this resonates on some deeper level, even if it sounds abstract, then deeply inside of you, you know this is true. Now, while there are a few ways how you can work with this, and without being able to teach you everything that I teach my clients, I can give you a few good pointers how you can start defining your boundary, how you can start defining yourself. Well, first of all, you can decide in your mind what is non-negotiable. How in the past maybe people kind of creeped in too close to what was comfortable, or crossed what is comfortable, but you never communicated this, or you communicated this when it was really late into this, meaning they've already gotten into your space, you've already permitted them this space, unknowingly, of course. Because this is a habit, this is a sort of tendency we develop, and it's not your fault. But then if you want to take it back, meaning set the boundary, these people get angry, because it's as if you're taking something that you gave them, and they already became comfortable in having all that, having all this space, having comfort, having you as a sort of resource. That's why people like that are highly sensitive, that's why empaths end up in abusive relationships. This is one of the most important reasons. You allow and allow and allow unknowingly. And the way out of it, of course, is to define yourself more. Like I say, one of the ways is to decide what is mine and what is theirs. Where do I end? Where do they start? What do I like versus what I don't like, what other may like that I'm not willing to take in anymore. And it is important to know these things, because if you haven't developed a habit of like knowing where is that boundary, where is it? Is it here? And you unconsciously allowed people to come so close, so close, so close, and all the way deep inside your energy, then, well, it means you haven't really defined it in your mind. So you can go through every area of your life, like work, relationships, friendships, all kinds of things, and define where is your non-negotiable. What are you willing to allow? What are you not willing to allow? When you have your mind set, when you have an image in your mind, how would you like this to look like? It will become so much easier for you to imagine this boundary, this invisible boundary, when it's happening, because you've already practiced this in your mind, like in a journal. And when you catch people crossing this boundary, now you can much earlier say, hey, watch it. You're kind of coming too close. You're doing something that I don't like, or you're treating me in the way that I don't like. And you see that whenever you define these boundaries and know what they are, it is so much easier to speak up very early on. And this is when it's also easier for you, because it's an easy ask to say to this person, hey, I don't like it, or oh no, thanks, I'm not into this. Rather than when you wait so long and they've already inhabited your space, they've already become guests, and they've already started owning everything about you. In a metaphor, of course. But then it's a hard task, basically, to tell these people, like, just get out of my space with your boots and your dirt and your pain and your abuse, right? It's so much easier to do it early on. That's why the first step always has to be you imagining your boundary. Now, another thing you can practice this is like literally physically finding your boundary, where your body ends, and finding this boundary and getting in touch with your body, and doing all kinds of things to get in touch with your physical body, like mindfulness, mindful exercise. I always encourage resistance exercise, something that will make you push against something and have the pushback, so that you can get used to that tension that happens in energy between people. Now, these are things that you need to practice every day, ideally, or at least every other day for a while. Because if you're 20, 30, 40, 50, just think how many times you practiced not doing this, how open your space have become. So finding all the ways to connect with your body, to not dissociate and go into your head, but feel the discomfort of your feelings, feel the discomfort of tension, of resistance. And you can do it all through the day. Even when you're sitting, when you're pressing down on the floor or against the wall. There's so many different ways, or resistance exercises. There are so many of them on YouTube. It's all for free, so there is really no excuse for you not to start trying. And as you do, I'll give you a bonus. You can start saying things like, no, I don't want this. No, I disagree, as you push against the wall. And there are so many different exercises you can engage in, but the key to having boundaries become easier for you is to connect your mind with your body. Like I said, we disconnected so early in our childhood that it became our normal. And society really rewards people being in their head and being detached from their emotions because you're easily used in that frame. Unfortunately, we are easily manipulated when we are not embodied, and this is the key to stand on your feet when you're in conflict, to be connected to your deep aggression, which is healthy and constructive. I'm not saying rage and fury at, being mean to someone, but healthy aggression when having an argument with someone. And even arguments are sometimes impossible for highly sensitive people and empaths. And these things are important because we cannot avoid all the time. And this is not how we want to live our life. It's not a way to live a life. It's becoming smaller and smaller, weaker and less resilient. It's avoiding more and more things that are uncomfortable. And unfortunately, what I'm seeing in the message that comes even from people that are specialists in highly sensitive people, I disagree with a lot of this because it maintains the idea that you are different but weak and that all you can do is manage it, that you have to disconnect, walk in headphones all day long and just avoid. This is not true. Don't believe this, because I worked on myself, I worked with others, and you can see progress when you make connection between your mind and the body, when you bring the flow again, just the information coming from all of your body that is containing virtually your entirety of subconscious mind, which is 95 to 97% of your mind. It has so much strength. So only in your head, you're using just a few percent of your capacity to create, to show up, to go for things. I'm not saying you will become someone that you're not. You will not become someone, and I don't want you, because you're beautiful, sensitive, intuitive, creative. You have a perspective like no one else. And I know this because people like you are literally pushing this planet towards evolution because you have so much foresight. But if you hide and hide away from everything, unfortunately, you cannot bring out any of your gifts. Not for others, not for yourself, to enjoy yourself and be fulfilled. So that was just my rant, in respect to the message that I see coming from elsewhere. Of course, it is validating to know that there's a bunch of people like you. So coming across information about high sensitivity is great. It's a great start, but it is just a step towards your evolution. It should not be something that you settle for and say, well, that's all I can do because I'm a highly sensitive person, right? And if that's what you want, I'm not going to discuss with it because that's your choice. Everyone has a choice. But if you don't want to settle for a small life, that you don't want to settle for feeling like you're weak, like you cannot do anything, like you cannot stand up for yourself, like you cannot go for your dreams, even if it's small steps. People that we call with thicker skin are not called like this without a reason. They have more defined boundaries. That's why they can go out into this world and go and get things, right? They can show up, then they can shake off the dust if something doesn't go, their way. It's easier for them because they are well defined. Mind-body connection is better than your probably is. And if you're still doubting what I'm saying, I have an entire audit where you can answer a questionnaire. No emails needed. It's just a blog post that you can read and understand a little bit about yourself, understand a little bit about the mind-body connection and the boundary. So I will post the link to this audit in the description of this episode, and I hope you do it just for your own sake and understand where you are on this thing, and maybe that there is something about this mind-body connection that you're not seeing, that you're escaping into your mind. Yes, it's a relief. It's cool. It's really nice to be spiritual, to be in your creativity, imagination, exciting ideas. But there is so much more. There's so much more aliveness when you connect with your body and can bring it all into this world and actually live it, not just think it. That's it for today. I will post some videos that directly link to this topic, and don't forget to do the audit so that you learn something about your mind-body connection.